this is something I'm hoping you are willing to talk about a little bit. When do you think this election interference case will come to a conclusion? And let me add a little bit of detail before you answer. You have said March in the past, and there are a couple of other cases out there that make that less feasible to my mind. Don't know anything, but that's just what it seems like. It can't be March. Can you give us any clue when this would wrap up?
I think a case will be on appeals for years.
Okay.
But I think that in terms of, I believe in that case there will be a trial. I believe the trial will take many months, and I don't expect that we will conclude until the winter or the very early part of 2025.
So Michael Popok, Legal AF. There's been a lot of speculation. You just heard it there about when Fani Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, is going to try her case against Donald Trump. She hasn't yet asked Judge McAfee for a date, but you can hear from that clip in a most recent interview just this week that Fani Willis believes that she'll start her trial around March. Put a pin in that for a minute. I'll pick up with it a little bit later in this hot take as to the feasibility of that March date. For a minute, but let's say she were to start sometime in March, April, May, somewhere in there. She thinks it will take until the winter of 2024, early 2025, which means after the November 2024 election. If that is true, then there's two ways that case could be used by Jack Smith in preserving his lead case for DC election interference against just Donald Trump, pending before Judge Chutkan, which is on the docket also for March of 2024. He can use Fani Willis to help him manage, if you will, the federal case, the Mar-a-Lago case with Judge Aileen Cannon. She has said May of 2024 for her espionage obstruction case that she's presiding over against Donald Trump. But it looks like every day, based on her rulings, that date could slip away into the ether, and there wouldn't be any date whatsoever for Donald Trump down in Florida, which again makes the date of March 2024 with Judge Chutkan all the more important. But Jack Smith can use Fani Willis because she hasn't yet set her date. And so if Donald Trump thinks, well, I'm going to get out from under Mar-a-Lago, and then all I got to worry about with all these criminal cases out there against me is just the DC election interference case, which I can tie up with Supreme Court appeals. He's got another thing coming because Fani can pick her date, let's say something that's respectful of the Judge Chutkan March 2024 federal trial date. She won't be able to completely overlap it in the priority of trials. Federal criminal trials go before state criminal trials generally, and criminal trials go before civil trials, federal first and then state. That's sort of the order of priority. That's how, if you're thinking about them as planes on a runway being cleared for takeoff, that's how they get cleared for takeoff. Now, if she's sitting, Fani Willis is sitting and waiting to see what Judge Cannon is going to do finally, and if her May 2024 espionage case, obstruction case against Donald Trump gets moved, then Fani Willis could slide in and try to take that date, pinning down Donald Trump between two now criminal trials in 2024. But the problem with that kind of theory, and we've run that theory a couple of times or posited it on Legal AF, our podcast, is that Fani's just basically conceded as the Fulton County District Attorney that if she even gets her case up and running against Donald Trump in the spring, early summer of 2024, state court cases in Georgia move much slower than federal cases, and she doesn't think she'll get her case tried realistically before the election, meaning people will be making their decision on who to vote for without the benefit of a full trial and a jury outcome in Georgia. It is looking exceedingly like the only criminal trial that will be tried before November of 2024 is exactly what we've been saying on Legal AF for the last 6 months. Jack Smith, special counsel's DC election interference case in the District of Columbia. It looks like it's the only one that will be tried. Now, you only need one. If Donald Trump is convicted of election interference, Jan 6th related election interference, in 4 counts of conspiracy that are pending against him in federal court in the District of Columbia, that should be enough for the average American to make his decision about who to pull the lever for on election day. He doesn't need, even though there's 91 felony counts against Donald Trump state and federally, he really only needs 1 conviction. Now, of course, we all think he should go to justice as quickly as possible. The other cases that are orbiting around Donald Trump in and around the same time period that could step in and give us a second trial against Donald Trump would include the Manhattan District Attorney's case arising out of Stormy Daniels hush money cover-up business record fraud. That's a mouthful. That's pending up in New York, presided over by Judge Merchan. That is currently still in the books for the end of March of 2024, but Judge Merchan has made it clear that he will back away and let Judge Chutkan try her federal case first. But he could move his case within that range. Let's say, for instance, just playing back of the envelope here, let's say Judge Chutkan starts as agreed in March of 2024. Her case could likely be over in 3 to 4 months, meaning March, April, May, June 2024, there's an opening. That opening, if it's not Fani Willis, Fulton County DA, with her more than a year-long trial, which goes beyond the election date, you probably could slide in a Stormy Daniels, relatively simple bribery business record fraud cover-up case in the June through the end of the summer time slot. So we've always speculated that there was a summer trial that could happen criminally against Donald Trump besides the March trial by Jack Smith. Now it's looking exceedingly like it could be back to Stormy Daniels New York state criminal case and not the Fani Willis Georgia broader, more sweeping RICO case. So I think it's 50-50. If I was a betting man, I would say that there is a very high probability of likelihood that the special counsel's case in Washington, presided over by Judge Chutkan, goes to the jury in or around May or June after starting in March. There's time for one more trial. If I had to pick my trials, I'd try the Stormy Daniels case in there, Manhattan District Attorney, try to get 2 convictions or at least 2 trials to jury disposition before voters have to vote. While Fani Willis's case can continue. Now, if in the unlikely event that there is the restoration of the Trump presidency, and again, I am couching my hypothetical here with that, the unlikely event that Trump wins and Joe Biden does not get reelected. He can't pardon himself for the Georgia stuff. As we've said at length, almost ad nauseum on Legal AF, state court crimes are not pardonable by a president because he only has federal power, if you will. And so her case can continue. Now, it is likely that Donald Trump would try to stay the case, stop the case from continuing, at least while he was president. And there's decent precedent out there, legal precedent, to support that you need to put a pin and hold the ring in the continued trial of a case against the sitting president about his conduct before he was elected president, and then pick up with that trial 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, whatever the term is left in his time. And so while that trial wouldn't be kicked out by a Trump victory, it would probably be put on ice until the Trump presidency, God forbid, was completed. So that's the sort of chess match on several different levels here, multiple level chess that's being played out by the various prosecutors. I haven't even talked about the civil cases that are all being tried against Donald Trump. There's one in January that slid in there before the March trial date for crimes involving a defamation and punitive damages against Donald Trump by E. Jean Carroll, the publisher or editor who was raped and defamed by Donald Trump, and that was proven in a civil case back in May. But now there's a second case that goes to trial in January just on damages because the judge has already ruled that liability has been established as a matter of law by the plaintiffs and E. Jean Carroll. So you got that case going on. And then you've got another class action case against Donald Trump and some of his children related to a pyramid scheme that they ran. And that's all going on sort of simultaneously with these other criminal cases, with the criminal cases taking the front seat. We'll continue to follow what's going on in Fulton County. Fani Willis's attempts to get that trial up and running sometime in the early spring of 2024, with the expectation, though, that it goes beyond the presidency and the election. Now, if Biden wins, which we all expect, that trial would just continue. There would be no interruption. And if he's convicted, Donald Trump would go to jail in a state penitentiary in Georgia. If he's convicted in the D.C. election case, he would be put in a federal penitentiary. And even if he was in now, of course, he would take an appeal and try to stay out on appeal while he continued to run for office. And even if he was convicted and sentenced and sent away to jail or prison, he would still be able to continue to run, and people could vote for him on the ballot, because it is not under our Constitution a disqualifying event for somebody to be a convicted criminal. You just have to have your head examined if you were going to decide that you were going to vote for somebody that just got convicted of a crime or a series of crimes against our democracy. We'll follow all of these Looney Tunes at the intersection of law, politics, and justice, one place, the MeidasTouch Network and their YouTube. Help them get to 2 million free subscribers now. They're at 1.75. Free subscribe, help them get to 2 million. If you like these kind of hot takes, give me a thumbs up. It does help with the ratings and keep the content coming to you. Every Wednesday and Saturday, join me with my co-anchors, Karen Friedman, Nick Niflo, Ben Meiselas, for Legal AF, the leading podcast at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. And until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.